Hey there friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sohum and today I'm going to be doing another 6-in-1 anime openings reaction. And all of these are actually going to be from the years 2000 to 2007. And if you've been following my reaction journey up until this point, you'll know that most of the openings we've checked out are, released relatively recently, probably in the last 5 years or so. So it's going to be fun to get to go back in time and hear some of the differences in these openings and, hopefully give us a bit of that nostalgic feeling that I know we're always all perpetually looking for. I'm excited to check these out today, but before we do jump in, a massive thank you to Amy the Soulful for making this donation request, and she dedicates this one to Colin. So to everybody out there watching this video, make sure you drop a like and comment thanking Amy as well. All right, now let's jump in. The first opening we're going to be checking out is from Bleach. And interestingly, Bleach is actually an anime that I watched maybe 2 or 3 episodes of way back when I was younger. And this one, started in 2006. I believe I would have seen anything from Bleach in like the year 2010, maybe 2011, if my memory serves. I certainly don't remember anything about it. I just thought Bleach was a cool name for an anime. So Bleach itself tells the story of Ichigo, a teenager who can see ghosts and gains the power of a soul reaper, Shinigami. Ichigo then uses these powers to protect humans from evil spirits called hollows and to guide good souls to the afterlife. The series follows Ichigo's journey as he learns to control his powers and battle various threats, including a treacherous Soul Society captain, Aizen. Okay. I think Aizen is a name that sounds familiar to me only because of like those Comic-Con videos where people are dressed up in cosplay. I think a few of the people I've seen dressed up as Aizen. Anyways, let's check out this first opening. The song is called Asterisk by Orange Range. 見上げた夜空の星たちの光見上げた夜空の星たちの光鐘の音は響く心の中へと広く深く物語のような星の雫その中に細い線路を築く時間とともに時代は動く流れる星を静かに動く目を閉じて耳を澄ますバー GOOD バイ放て光負けずにしっかり今解き放て誰かに届くまで栄光の光はこの向こうに君たちと作っていくストーリー見上げた夜空の星たちの光の想い描いた時代を超え色あせるとなくときらり瞳につく誰かの叫び風に思いを月に願いを力ある限り生きてくれ今日も見上げた夜空の星たちの光古の思い描いた時代を超え色あせるとなくと僕らの思いもいつか誰かの胸に光り続けようあの星のように Interesting. Yeah, you can. So you definitely have a sort of different feel to at least the first opening here from the 2000s compared to the more modern anime openings. I think you hear it in a number of places. The first, most obvious one, which I'm ascribing to the 2000s, is the mix. It feels a little bit murkier, a little bit worse in quality overall. And the reason I say that is because if you're trying to like identify all of the unique layers in the mix, you can sort of do it, but especially in the lows, it all kind of merges together almost like a kind of murky musical mud. Not that there's anything intrinsically wrong with that. Sometimes a song calls for a bit of murkiness, a bit of darkness, something that's like it's hard to identify for whatever feeling you're trying to convey. But in my opinion, at least with the way this anime was described to me, as well as the overall feel from this song, especially in the higher parts, like the chorus, for example, the lows don't necessarily call for something murkier. I think if the bass, if the lows were just cleaned up a little bit more, this could really pop and just be an older style anime opening, but it would work even better than it currently does now. I feel like the energy that we do have, we lose a few points, I think, because of that murkiness. Because when we do brighten up into the chorus is also weighed down a little bit by that murkiness. So maybe another way to say it, instead of repeating murkiness over and over, is to say that the song feels a little bit heavier than it needs to be. And not heaviness in terms of like, wow, those are like heavy punches like I normally reference, but literally like I feel like I've got a 30-pound backpack on me while I'm listening to this. So that seems very negative, but overall I actually do think of this song sort of positively. So I think I would probably put this between like 7.9 and an 8.2, because that chorus is very catchy, and I do actually love the bass melody, and it's interesting. It's an interesting vocal delivery, especially what we got in the first verse and pre-chorus into the chorus. I think each of those like rhythmic deliveries on the vocal side were fun to listen to. But yeah, that puts us, I guess, at an 8.05 out of 10. I think I'll make this tentative for now, just because once we listen to some other openings from this era, maybe we can more easily place it. But that was Bleach. Let's check out the second one here from Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann's plot follows two teenagers, Simon and Kamina, who live in a subterranean village and dream of reaching the surface. So like this is like in a cave, I guess. They discover a mecha called Gurren Lagann, which helps them fight the forces of Lord Genome and later the Anti-Spirals, who are the true enemy. The story focuses on their journey of growth, their powerful bond, and the development of Team Daiguren, a group that learns to cooperate and utilize their combined power to ultimately save the universe. That's super interesting. The song is called Sorero Days by Shoko Nakagawa. Let's check it out.
この声が闇に虚しく吸い込まれたもしも世界が意味を持つのならこんな気持ちも無駄ではない憧れに押しつぶされて諦めてたんだ果てしない空の色も知らないで走り出した想いが今でもこの胸を確かに叩いてるから今日の僕がその先に続く僕らなりの明日を築いてゆく答えはそういつもここにある
That was cool. That was definitely real cool. There's so much I wrote down here. I definitely like that this one has that contrast between like the heaviness and the guitars. There is still a little bit of that murkiness that I referred to prior in this mix, but because the contrast with the vocals and those guitars and that murkiness is really present, I think it does what the first song was trying to do a little bit better. Because now you have that height difference, right? The mix is now a lot. I keep hitting my mic. The mix is now a lot, I guess, taller or higher. It has more depth. One of those three should work well. It has a lot more depth to it. So you hear, even though there is mud below, you can safely fly and jump above into those highs. And you get a little bit of those highs also from those like laser-esque effects, the digital effects, even the electric guitar from time to time. One of its voicings, one of the notes and the chords that's being strummed finds its way up there. So the highs I think are fairly well flushed out, and the mids for sure are super thick and rich in my opinion. So when you have that contrast now with the lows that are murky, I think it works better. Almost like imagine, I don't know, what kind of like cheesecake would this, like imagine going to Cheesecake Factory, which cheesecake would this song best represent? Maybe the s'mores one? Although I don't know, like I like the s'mores one, but I also sort of can't have too much of it. I'll keep thinking about the Cheesecake Factory cheesecakes and which one applies best here. But I think the vocals for me just take this one up a notch, a little bit higher for sure than the first one we did here. One, I guess, minor note as well is the bass that we heard in Bleach is actually a lot less present here in the, how do we say this name, Gurren Lagann's opening. So, you know, there's differences. Even though these are from the same era, as you may well know, every song has its own bells and whistles to be contemplated. So I think I rate this in the 8.2-3 range. I'll probably stay in 8.3 and give it an 8.5, which rounds us out at about an 8.4 out of 10. I do like the melody. I also can't like shake this feeling of like, man, this does feel older. And again, there's nothing wrong with something feeling older. Maybe it's the production style. Maybe it's the way that the DAWs processed MP3 information. It could be many possible explanations that are above my pay grade at the moment. But something does feel older about it. Maybe it's just clarity in the mix. So we'll see if that changes. And then, in the following openings here. So let's check out the third one. This is from Code Geass, which we've actually checked out an opening from, I believe, Code Geass before. Lelouch of the Rebellion. So Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion is the full name here. Code Geass follows Lelouch, an exiled Britannian prince who gains the power of Geass, allowing him to order anyone to do anything with just a look. The Geass, while granting Lelouch immense power, also comes with a heavy price, as it can be used to manipulate and control, raising questions about the ethical use of such power. He leads a rebellion against the Holy Britannian Empire. He fights under the alias Zero to avenge his mother's death and establish a new world for his sister. As the rebellion intensifies, Lelouch faces numerous moral dilemmas, making difficult choices that affect the lives of his friends, family, and the world around him. The series culminates in a shocking twist, with Lelouch sacrificing himself as a part of a plan to create a new world peace, leaving behind a legacy of both heroism and tragedy. It sounds like he became a true martyr at the end of this one, Lelouch. So let's check out the opening here. It's a song called Colors by Flow. Let's check it out. Oh, there's another paragraph here. My apologies. This anime, themes of revenge, rebellion, and betrayal are pillars within the series that draw various depictions of morality between good and bad characters. Some heroes act villainous, while villains can act heroic, ultimately blurring the line between good and evil. It kind of reminds me of that show, The Boys. Such themes of morality and what is right and wrong are at the pinnacle of Code Geass, and while revenge is a primary theme in the anime. Okay. Yeah, I like it. There's themes of martyrdom, heroism, tragedy, good, bad, all of that and more. I think the world deserves to understand a little bit more nuance these days. So let's jump back into the past. Code Geass, Colors by Flow.
自分を世界さえも変えてしまえそうな瞬間はいつもすぐそばに隠せぬ苛立ちと
Interesting. You know what I'm starting to notice now, which I'm sort of like hinting at the end here, is these openings tend to actually start with the melody you hear that appears later on in the larger chorus. So they kind of start with a bit of a semblance of what that chorus is and meant to be, and then at the end or in the middle somewhere, they return to that chorus and add more dynamics, add a bit of a bigger punch, lyrics as well. Usually the intros just have the instrumentals for the choruses and then transition it to, I think, a separate intro and then pre-chorus, or then verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then we kind of round it out, which is, I guess, it's like practically different than what we hear in more of the modern openings, because in the modern openings it feels like we get very separate intros. So the intros themselves have a different feel to them, which then are immediately followed up with the verse, pre-chorus, chorus, then like a bridge, then chorus again, then outro, which can sometimes emulate that intro. So sort of what I feel is like these songs stylistically are structured systematically different than the ones of the modern era now. And I think it was in a previous blocked now anime openings reaction I did, but I basically outlined a bit of a formula for how songs, and especially in anime openings, seem to be structured. And I guess I'll try to quickly recreate that formula for you here so that we have a point of contrast to make. So kind of what I see the modern openings. So modern openings formula here tends to be, we have a sort of unique intro that leads us into a rather, I think structurally different structurally different verse that leads to some kind of pre-chorus that really can ramp itself up into the chorus. Now, whether this little arrow that connects pre-chorus and chorus is an obvious ramp or one that, throws wrenches our way and subverts our expectations, that just depends on the song and anime itself. But usually we go into that pre-chorus, chorus section, then follows up with a bridge or maybe solo, and then back to, let's say, chorus 2, and then usually we return to that intro / outro. That tends to be a formula that I've witnessed with the modern anime openings. What I'm observing so far here in these, let's say, 2000 to 2007 openings, and I'll still formulate my opinion with the 3 openings we have left, but thus far it seems like we have that intro which actually sort of doubles as an instrumental version of the chorus. So you start with that, then we go into the verse, pre-chorus, then chorus, where this arrow that I left ambiguous previously, this is more of like a solid ramp now. I feel like my expectations are not really being subverted much. It's just more of a consistent ramp from the pre-chorus to chorus in this era. So we have an obvious ramp there, and so far we really haven't had much bridges. So it feels like this bridge section, bridge/solo, is kind of omitted, and we just kind of return back to either an outro or just like an instrumental outro with that chorus again. So I would say this one that we're listening to now, this older version, seems a bit more simplistic in that regard, and that's why I feel like I'm able to quickly understand these ones. Whereas the modern openings we listen to, there are so many different sections, transitions, scale switches, instruments, styles, the list goes on and on. So let's see if this formula persists. We do have to give a rating to colors here. I did actually really like the brightness in this track. I think it was the brightest one overall. It had like a jazzy, brassy kind of feel throughout, which I always appreciate. You kind of hint at electric swing, but you still remain firmly in that like rock, pop rock kind of genre. I will give this, I think, a rating between like 8.2 and 8.6, which I think gives us an 8.4, which, interestingly enough, is the exact same rating we gave earlier, but with a different range. 8.3 to 8.5 prior. Tighter range the first time around. Second time around, we have a wider range, but the same average. Confidence intervals going crazy right now. Let's check out the fourth anime here. This is GTO, Great Teacher Onizuka. GTO tells the story of Onizuka, a former biker gang leader with a strong desire to become a teacher. He lands a job at a troubled middle school, tasked with taming a class that has driven previous teachers to despair. Onizuka uses unorthodox and sometimes illegal methods to connect with his students and help them overcome their problems, often pushing boundaries and engaging in physical confrontations to get his point across. Oh man. The song is called Hitori no Yoru by Porno Graffiti. Let's check it out. 'Let's see. This one, it feels very raw. It almost feels like someone like recorded a demo of a song and then they decided to use that as the final cut. It could be like a stylistic choice, but the way it feels in the mix, it feels wider, almost like you can hear the reverberations, the echoes off of the walls in the studio that they recorded this in. But even if that was the case, I feel like this song was lacking a lot of melody overall. Almost like the whole point is to just like have that kind of loud, not shrill exactly, but louder drums, louder guitars, that chunk that you feel when you just like hit the notes, as if almost like you're raking the guitar or you have all of the strings muted and you're just trying to create that like percussive feeling. That's sort of what it feels like. And when you stack on top of that the vocalist, who isn't really trying to sing that much on pitch either, he's kind of just shouting out into all of that, it almost feels like a completely atonal track. Not that it is completely. If you microscope zoom onto any of the layers in the mix, you can hear distinct melodies, though they are still, I think, kind of raw, kind of washed out, a little bit flat. And I was going to say, like, I don't really prefer the vocalist. And then, like, mentally I asked myself, well, if another vocalist would be on this track, would it improve my listening experience that much more? And maybe by, like, a hair or two, like a few decimal points, I could raise this. But I think even, like, a phenomenal vocalist on a track like this would struggle to, like, make it make sense. Because the background is very atonal. It is very rhythmic. It is very, like, punchy, almost like what is that is it Beastie Boys, a bit of like new metal-esque grunge mixes, which I don't have any problem with grunge. In fact, I love the genre of grunge, but even with grunge you get like heaviness, you get some glue between the layers. It doesn't feel as raw, and there are, catchy riffs and darker melodies. This one just, again, it felt more like a demo to me. What is that style? Maybe like a raw punk rock with less melody than I would prefer. This is all coming down to my preference, so I think I'm gonna have to like put this somewhere in the fives, unfortunately. Maybe like a 4.7 to like 5.1. This probably be one of my lower ratings I've given for anime openings. What would that average be? Maybe like a 4.9 out of 10. Usually like 5 is like my cutoff for like, okay, this is purely average. If you like looked at the normal distribution, this is a purely average song. If it's above the 5, then it's like a song that probably is worth listening again for one element or more. If it's below that 5, so you cut it off at that median, it's for me probably not worth listening to again. But let me know if you agree or disagree with my opinions. You know, these are all opinions at the end of the day. There's no science to loving or hating or whatever music. For me, I love music, so I don't ever hate on something. It's just about what I prefer or not prefer. This one is a song that goes into the not preferred category for me. Let's check out the next one here. This one is called Black Lagoon. Black Lagoon is an anime series about Rokuro Rock, a Japanese businessman who is captured by mercenaries known as the Lagoon Company. Rock, disillusioned with his corporate life, decides to join the mercenaries led by Dutch and becomes their negotiator and professional face. The Lagoon Company engages in smuggling, black market activities, and other illegal operations in Southeast Asia, often involving encounters and conflicts. The series explores themes of disillusionment, the nature of good and evil, and the consequences of violence. That's a very interesting plotline. Let's check out the song here. It's called Red Fraction by Mel.
Get down on your knees, gotta go hand the shoulders for you guys. Look at the end of the earth. Do what you need, give your replication. I put the term necessary. You make a mess for Francis, this writing word. Should I or not? Go is my vision. Right on the fire, right on the power. Wait for a hand and
Yo, I'm getting confused now because okay, hold on. Let Sohum process a little bit. You guys doing good today? I hope so. These songs, man, are so different from the openings of the modern era. It's actually more different than I would have expected. For this song in particular, I didn't quite get the full structure of this one because I thought I was understanding what I was hearing as I heard it, but the repetition in certain sections caused me to like lose the structure, and then I kind of lost the plot because we started off in this like really heavy, almost like, digital feel, a sort of world where everything is withdrawn, pulled back, but also like sharp in the mix. You can hear that especially in those like multiple layered like radio vocals. They get high, they get low, and they almost pair very well with that electric guitar feel. Because some of these instruments, like, they could be electric guitars, but they could also be something produced in the DAW. It's hard for me to know without actually getting my hands on it. I do like the rhythmic element here, and you may ask yourself, Sohum, what makes this song that was rhythmic and still overall less melodic different than the one we heard previously? I think in this one, it was more rhythmic overall, but there was still more melody, and there was a distinct section switch that I guess served as their chorus. I thought it was this pre-chorus, but seemingly it was the chorus that was more melodic. So we did get more melody here, which I will always be in favor of. But it was weird because like what it was, the chorus felt like a pre-chorus to me. So maybe like, and this is just like a very cursory analysis, so take it with a grain of salt, but maybe it's the case that the way that like pre-choruses and choruses have developed over time have changed such that the pre-choruses of now are the choruses of old. But I almost don't believe that. That would be just like my kind of devil's advocate position. I almost don't believe that because a few of the choruses we heard in the prior tracks felt more like choruses. Maybe it's just this song. I'll give the caution that this song probably uses its chorus uses its sound, even though it sounds like a pre-chorus, as the chorus itself. Man, I'm getting lost in my thoughts in this reaction. I feel like there's so much to like take in, and at the same time, like I'm trying to unpack whether or not it works or not. I think this works. I think the previous one didn't really work that well. That's why it got below a 5. I think this one works, but it's not realizing all of its potential. And again, there's still elements that do feel a little murky to me. So I'm literally at this point going to chalk it up to being from the 2000s. Where do I rate this? I think I put this like a 7.5 to like 7.8, which gives us a 7.65 out of 10. I think I'm satisfied with that. And by the way, I know I had a tentative rating earlier. Listening to these, I think I have to bump this one up a little bit. I think this one has to go to like 8.2 out of 10. I don't know why. I think we started off on the right foot, and I think some of these openings have been confusing or just not really capitalized on the moments that they could have. But yeah, that's a 7.65. I think there are cool elements in this one. It just somehow feels a bit disjointed. We'll go with that. But we have one last opening to check out here. This is from an anime called Death Note, which I have heard a lot of chatter about online. Many people have said they absolutely love Death Note and they would recommend it to any first-time anime watcher. Others in the anime-loving community hate Death Note. So seemingly this is a very polarized anime, but I know nothing about it, so let's find out. Death Note centers on Light Yagami, a brilliant high school student who discovers a supernatural notebook called a Death Note. This book allows him to kill anyone whose name he writes in it while picturing their face. Is this like smiting them? Like they'll die, or he has to still go out and kill them himself? That is freaky. It's like what's it called? A voodoo doll? Or voodoo book, maybe? He is disgusted with the crime in the world. When Light starts using the Death Note, he begins to believe that he is destined to become God of his new world. If you feel like you're going to become God, then you probably aren't God, my guy. That once he purges the world of all the criminals, sinners, and people he believes to be unjust, he will create a better world. He believes that it was his purpose to rule over everyone as a god. Okay. And he uses the Death Note as a tool to pass divine judgment onto criminals, those who he believes to be wicked and unkind, and those that stand in his way to becoming God of his new world. Sort of reminds me of Dexter. He will do whatever it takes to reach his goal because he believes it is his right to do so. This leads to a deadly game of cat and mouse between Light and mysterious detective known only as L, who is tasked with stopping the killer known as Kira, aka Light. There are strong themes that connect the story religion. The anime has themes having to do with Christianity and Japanese Shinigami. Ryuk is a Shinigami in the world of Death Note. He, like many other Shinigami, use their notebooks to write down the names of people whose lifespan has run out. They especially execute people when it's their time to go, similar to a Grim Reaper. When Ryuk gives Light his notebook, he essentially gives Light the power of a Shinigami. Light, in a sense, becomes a Shinigami when he starts using the Death Note. He becomes a Grim Reaper who executes people when he believes it's their time to go. Yeah, whenever it comes to like some individual's subjective belief about what's right and wrong, what is to be done with a certain person, whether or not they should like enact vigilante justice or whatever divine justice they feel like they have power to or entitled, usually leads down the wrong path. So the song is called What's Up People by Maximum the Hormone, which I have actually heard of this name, Maximum the Hormone. I don't know where, but I've heard them. So let's check it out. Brother. Oh, bro. I love that. That's so funny. Like, immediately, the moment I heard this, in my mind, System of a Down. I don't know if you guys know that band. They're one of, like, well, they were my favorite band of all time. Like, when I first started listening to music, like, when I was in, I think, 4th or 5th grade is when I discovered them for the first time, and I just binged them forever, and I've been listening to them ever since. Absolutely love that band. They're so heavy, they're so melodic, they're so rhythmically driven as well. They have such unique sections. Like, there's a lot of interesting qualities about System of a Down that not many other metal bands, hard rock bands, metalcore bands can even think about emulating. It's very interesting to hear that kind of feel injected in an anime opening where you have very limited time. This one especially reminded me of System of a Down's self-titled album. Super worth checking that out. I will always spread System of a Down propaganda to the masses. But crazy heavy from top to bottom. And just because a song is heavy doesn't mean we give it a good rating, but when you have a lot of like fun dynamic elements throughout and fun ramping energy, there's a consistency in this one where I can identify the structure of this song and also reliably predict what's going to happen next in a way that doesn't take away from the experience but actually adds to it, because I know I can anticipate a moment where I just have to start thrashing my head banging to the absolute depths because of how intense it is. And funnily enough, that's the one we're going to end with today, the one that is literally the most intense. So I think for that, the intensity, I have to immediately put it in the 8s. And I think it actually probably gets like high 8s. I would say maybe 8.6 to like 8.9 or so. If we had more elements of like melody, maybe a different set of instruments that, you know, took charge in a certain section, I could give this like a ceiling of 9.0, 9.1. But because we don't have that element, it's just like the heavy components of System of a Down, I can't give it higher than, I think, that 8.9 ceiling. So that averages out here to about an 8.75 out of 10. Death Note being the heaviest song, and I believe getting the highest rating of this opening set today. So let's recap everything that we got to listen to here. So we started with Bleach and gave it a 8.05 tentatively, but that became an 8.2. I think it was definitely more redeemable having listened to the other openings after the fact. Then we followed it up with Gurren Lagann, which we gave an 8.4. Then Code Geass, which we gave also an 8.4, but came from a bit of a different range there, which I found interesting. Then we had GTO, Great Teacher Onizuka, which unfortunately was our lowest rating of the reaction set. Just not much melodically happening. I think it really could have used like at least a do-over. Like a song like this, if you left all of the actual structure the same, the melody the same, if you just recorded it, I think with a bit more finesse, I could have put it maybe in the mid fives. But yeah, there was just too many aspects of this that didn't like draw me in, which is why we're sitting at this lower rating. Then with Black Lagoon, we gave a tidy 7.65, and lastly with Death Note here, the highest rating of the reaction set, an 8.75. So I'm very curious, after giving my takes on all of these songs and the overall feeling of modern anime openings versus anime openings from the 2000s, what y'all's opinion are on them. For me, to give a bit of the teacher's answers here, which it's music, so there are no answers, but to give my take, it feels like the structure and style of openings from the earlier era, the 2000s, is structurally different than what we get from the modern era. I think it appears in the mix, in the way that things feel more murky in the prior era versus the modern era. I think what happens in the modern era, there's far more dynamics. I think things happen very quickly. They switch from section to section, and each section uniquely taps on a different genre or different style, and they tend to maximize on those styles well. Even if they can feel disconnected at times, the execution from a technical standpoint, and even the way it sounds independently in the mix, feels very rich. It almost feels like it's in front of you. For the rare song in the modern era of anime openings, have I said this mix needs to be like turned up, like it is too murky? That is a complaint of mine that I've had, but it doesn't really carry across the majority of such openings. Unfortunately, that is something that I cannot say about the past era. It feels like most of these openings here struggled in one way or the other with their mixes, whether it sounded like a demo, or the basses were too low, or the lows were too mixed and jarbled and kind of tangled together in a way that is not easily identifiable, these pitches. It just makes it harder for me to hear melody. That tends to be the case. With rhythm, it was actually fairly clear cut with the drums, what they were doing, what when the bass was hitting, what intervals were they hitting at. Like the rhythm was more attainable in these openings, but it lacked in melody, in my opinion. And when you lack in melody, it already takes points away from you, in my book. But when you also lack in melody and dynamics, and the mix is a bit murkier on average, I think we just have like lower quality. So that actually should be very encouraging for many anime listeners and enjoyers, because everything in the modern era, in my opinion, and maybe that is just my bias, seems to be getting better. It all seems to be more engaging, more deliberate, more technically proficient, and it truly stands out. I'm sure some of these openings may be very iconic, so y'all can leave your hate comments down below. I don't mind. It's music at the end of the day, so we all have our differences in opinion, but I'm still curious. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed my reaction and would like to make a request yourself, you can do so by hitting the first link in the description box below. But as always, my friends, have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care and peace.